If there was a place where you knew that you could be safe forever, would you ever want to leave that place?
Comfort is an amazing feeling, and one that we all seek in some way. Whether it's through music, video games, blankets, food, or loved ones, we find a way to retreat into comfort at the end of every day. Similarly, in the world of survival horror, we eventually find ourselves retreating into a safe room in order to save our game. Here, we are granted comfort. We know that Mr. X can't follow us here. We know that no chainsaw can break down this door, that no zombie will come in to bite us. Eventually, you may start to wonder why you would ever even want to leave this place. After all, if the goal is survival, wouldn't it make sense to just stay still where you know you can't die? In Resident Evil 2, Leon and Claire are faced with this very choice. It's true that if Leon and Claire were to stay in the safe room forever, they would never be killed by zombies, but they'd also never see the outside world again. Sherry would not have a place to grow up, Leon would not be there to save Ashley, and Claire would never see her brother again.
In real life, it's no different. Even though it's extremely comfortable staying in place in a safe room, you won't go anywhere by standing still. A safe room in real life could be holding out on hope that you know isn't true. If you know that deep down, as much as you're holding out hope, waiting for something to change, waiting for a person to change, for a person to accept you, or for circumstances that you know won't change to just change on their own, then you're staying in a safe room and you're avoiding taking action when really what you need to do is get out and face the world of survival horror. It could also be not checking, your results that you got on a test or an exam because you're worried that you might see a really bad grade. And it's, ignorance is bliss. It's easier to just pretend it doesn't exist than to look and see the shocking truth, if that shocking truth is even the truth. It could be a lot of things. There's a lot of different ideas of concepts that can represent this safe room. It could be staying in a bad relationship where it's like, or even if it's not bad in a sense of like abusive, this is not the person you want to spend the rest of your life with, and yet you're just staying because you don't want to be alone. In that case, you're staying in the safe room because it's easier to stay in that room than it is to get out and face uncertainty, to go out where things aren't all set out for you, where you don't necessarily know what's going to happen, what's going to play out. You may have given yourself Stockholm Syndrome, where it's just easier to stay with that captor that's familiar to you. Maybe captor's overdoing it, but it's staying in a safe room means to stay in a place that even if it's not necessarily directly bad for you, isn't furthering you. Whether that place is physical or metaphorical, whether that means staying in your hometown that you've outgrown, or whether it's mentally living in the past for 30 years and you're like, man, I was the high school football coach, or the high school football, the quarterback. It's just, man, I was the greatest. When I got that touchdown back in 96, and it's like, man, it's time to move on. And there's good reason to move on. See, in Resident Evil, specifically in Resident Evil 2, even though gameplay-wise it seems that you would be fine simply staying in the safe room forever, if you stayed in that safe room forever, you would never escape Raccoon City. Because that safe room, that's just a room. You're not getting out of there if you just stay there forever. You won't see the outside ever again. You might be safe from dying from zombies, but you're just going to sit in a room your entire life and do nothing, have nothing to do, no one to talk to, no growth, because the growth comes from going out into the world of survival horror that's dark, that's scary, that bad things can happen, that you might end up dying a horrible death when you're out there. But it's worth it, because if you stayed there forever, then, well, firstly, Leon and Claire would have died a horrible death regardless, because they were just a few hours away from a nuke that was going to hit on Raccoon City. You simply can't stay in that safe room forever because it's not furthering your progress, it's not furthering your life. Even in real life, even though there's not a nuke hanging over us, at least not at the time of me recording this, you have a limited amount of time. Life goes on. And if you don't keep moving, you might find yourself left behind as, other people are preparing to move on with their lives, to go to the next big step. For me, as I'm recording this is the second semester of the last year of high school for me. You could be preparing to move on, doing your college applications, getting your driver's license, and finding yourself a car, and preparing for the next big step of your life, learning new skills. Or you could stay where you're comfortable. You could just not do anything. Not apply to any colleges, not do anything in regards to your grades, not put in, part of going out of the safe room means putting in the work to get to a better place. And if you're not putting in that work, if you're unwilling to put in that work, well, your grades won't go up. You won't be seeing the success. You won't be escaping Raccoon City because, it's not easy. It's easy to stay in the safe room forever. It requires no effort. It's going to suck. It will mean a terrible life, but it's easy. There is no input on your end required. You can just sit. You can just stay there and just watch as time passes. Or you could get moving, and then you have to worry about zombies at every corner, about Mr. X following you, about William Birkin, about liquors, about all types of monsters. You'll have to worry about managing your ammo and your knives and things of that nature, but if you don't do that, you'll never even have a chance. Because if you had one chance, one opportunity, would you capture it or would you just let it slip? Every day is that chance. And every day, every minute, every second, every hour is a chance for you to capture your life, to further yourself, to get out of that safe room. And every time you choose to go back on TikTok or Instagram and get back to scrolling, is another time you're saying no and you're staying in the safe room. Because social media is yet another safe room. It provides us glimpses and glances at a potentially better life, at least a life that seems more exhilarating from the outside looking in. And yet, you're not actually experiencing any of that. And, there's a lot of content on the internet that can provide you glimpses into other aspects of life that, you might not have. But that's just instant gratification. That's a safe room. Because by being there, you're just staying in place and you're not moving anywhere. You're not seeing any growth, not seeing any progress. You're not improving yourself. You're just staying where it's comfortable. Because it's comfortable to lay under the blanket and scroll. It's comfortable to, wake up at 10 a.m., 12 p.m. every day and then spend the first 1 or 2 hours of your day just doom scrolling instead of getting out of bed the moment your alarm rings or the moment you wake up. That's comfortable. But comfort doesn't reward you. Maybe on the short term. On the short term, you'll feel some dopamine, but it's not going to get you anywhere. On the long term, what are you going to be glad that you did? That you stayed in bed for 2 hours doom scrolling? Or that you got out? You went to the gym. Even though it's difficult, you did it. That you ate healthy instead of having junk food and, quote unquote comfort foods like sodas and stuff like that. And, you don't have to be like a Sigma alpha male who's like, I work out every single day. I bench press 700 pounds and I eat raw eggs every day. I crack raw egg into my milk and then I drink it. Protein. If the gym's your main thing, that's good. That's a good thing. But it's not everyone's main thing, and it doesn't have to be your main thing, but taking care of yourself is something that you should always prioritize. And it never hurts to be a little bit stronger. You never know when you have to move heavy equipment, when you have to carry heavy things, when you have to help someone or defend yourself. Imagine if Leon had no physical strength and Resident Evil 2 would have been over. He would have never even gone to anywhere because swinging a knife is not easy, specifically against those monsters. You need some strength to really make those hits do damage. Using a gun also requires physical strength, and particularly in Resident Evil 2, the original, his shotgun with the parts attached shoots with so much force it actually pushes him back every time he shoots it. Now imagine if that guy had no arm strength, he would just be sent flying. You need to do these things. You need to do the hard things that will reward you on the long term. And if you have a dream, if there's something you want to do, like for me, that's making these videos and working on my Shopify, and the link for it is in the description. It's working towards having a business so that in 5-10 years from now, that can be my full-time job. So that I don't have to work in like a corporation. I can be my own thing, selling video games, making people happy and making content that makes myself happy and fixing consoles, doing the things I love. For you, that could be making music. It could also be making videos. It could be the same things as me. It could be sports. You could be trying for the NBA. Everyone says, no, you'll never make it. You'll never make the NBA. That's what everyone's told. But 99% of gamblers quit before they win big. Jokes aside, though, there's maybe a 1%, below 1% chance, but there is a chance, and that chance can be achieved if you don't quit. If every day you work the absolute max, if you work more than everybody else, eventually you will become the best player and you'll have your chance. Just because something's unlikely doesn't mean you should give up. Statistically speaking, surviving the events of Resident Evil 2 are highly unlikely, to the point that, at least originally, there were only 4 survivors. Eventually that number increased steadily, but the chances of surviving the Raccoon City incident, the chances of leaving that safe room and going out and not dying in the process are incredibly slim, and yet they had to do it because it was the best thing. There's a 100% chance that you don't get out of the city and that you just stay there forever and that nothing happens and that you're alive, but like, what does it matter because you're not doing anything with it? Or a, say, 1% chance of surviving. Of course, I'll take the 1% chance of being able to see the outside world again, of, being able to continue life, to also save Sherry, because, are you just going to leave the kid there in this zombie-infested city because, you're too selfish to leave the comfortable safe room? There's good reasons, though, as to why you might want to leave that safe room, but there's also a how. And for me, a couple ways that I personally have left the safe room is, right now, I went outside in the cold. It's not comfortable out here. It's winter. It's cold. The wind is cold. It's like minus 20. But I went outside and did that because staying inside, though comfortable, was starting to hurt my head. And it certainly wasn't furthering me. I can only get so much done inside in front of a laptop. So I went outside to record this video. There's also, socializing. That's another great way to get out of the safe room and to break out of the comfort zone and escape Raccoon City. In this case, the metaphorical Raccoon City of no social skills or feeling lonely, because though feeling lonely is difficult, what's easy is not doing anything about it. Simply staying in your room all day, hoping that maybe someone texts you or that maybe someone says, let's hang out, even though there's no one to say that to you because you're not even meeting people for that to occur. There's a solution to that, though, and it's difficult. It was never meant to be easy, but as JFK says,
do not pray for easy lives, my friends. Pray to be stronger men.
Though it's easy to just stay in your room, constantly refresh your notifications page, seeing a net zero DMs come in, that's easy. That's easy to do. But actually going outside and making new friends, going to school and talking to people that you've not talked to before, and telling them all about how you bought 6 copies of Call of Duty 4, or about all the slight variations between the different versions of Quake. Maybe don't do that if you don't like restraining orders, but make new friends, talk to new people, and even if that conversation doesn't lead anywhere long term, you took the chance and you didn't actually lose anything. Much like in Resident Evil, if you die, nothing really happens. If you die in Resident Evil, well, you see, you witness your character die horribly, but then you press continue, and it's like nothing ever happened. In real life, if you fail, well, you failed. Keep going. That's not the end. It's not, game over is not game over. It's not done until it's actually done. And it's only ever actually done when you die. So just keep trying. Get up, keep trying. For me, I already put out 50 videos. And, I've not gotten 1 million subscribers or anything like that. I've not even hit 100 yet. And yet, I keep trying. I keep getting up. If this video doesn't do well, okay, well, I'll keep trying. Eventually, I'll get there. If I put out 100 videos, I'll probably have at least 100 subscribers by then. In your case, keep trying, keep talking to people. Eventually, you'll meet the right person that will want to be friends. Or if it's dating, you'll meet the right person who would want to date you. It's also good to know to be alone, though. There's 2 sides to that coin, where simply always needing company is a safe room. If you're filling a void of loneliness with meaningless social interaction, that's one thing, you gotta learn to be independent, to be comfortable in your own skin. But at the same time, it's definitely good to have some friends. Friends are great. Friends are probably the best thing, and they can help you with so much. They can help you to achieve your dreams too. Another thing, personally, what might be the single most effective way that I've gone out of the safe room was talking to strangers, or at least saying hi. When you're walking down the street and you see someone, stranger, just wave, say hi, and they'll probably just say hello, and nothing will happen, or they won't, or maybe they're gonna, pretend they'll do what you might know all too well, pulling out your phone, pretending you got a text at that exact moment. We know damn well you didn't. Or they'll just stare at you awkwardly, or look away, pretend they didn't hear. Who knows? But at least you tried. And as the people on Nugget Bridge say, I tried my best, I have no regrets. And you won't regret things if you know you tried your absolute best. It's when you, as the merchant says in 4, spend the rest of your life wondering what if, because you didn't give it your all, or perhaps you didn't try at all to even see what could happen. That's when you'll be left with regrets. And so you won't regret things if you tried your absolute best to leave the safe room and things still didn't work. But you will regret if you stayed in the safe room forever and wondered, what if I got out? What if I survived? What if I escaped Raccoon City? What if I saw the outside world again? What if there was more laying beyond this checkpoint? All that's to say is, challenge yourself today. Or, right after you're done watching this video, think of what you can do to break out of the safe room. I gave you a few examples already. You can look at your own life, see what you're struggling with. For many of us, probably most of us, it's phone addiction, and figure out how you're going to combat it. How you'll close that phone and work to your goals. Because comfortable as Instagram is, it's not furthering you. Most likely it isn't. But if you spent all that time that you spent on Instagram doing uncomfortable things that do further you, like learning new languages or going outside and socializing in the real world, that's going to help you. That's much better. That's working your way out of Raccoon City. Hey all, thank you for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I personally enjoyed making it, even though it took me a really long time. And if you would like to support me, check out my Shopify. The link is in the description. That's how you can personally support me by buying a game or a console. I have a Wii up there, a Guitar Hero controller, stuff like that. If you'd like to buy that stuff, think of it a bit like a Patreon, but in return you get video games. To me, that sounds like the best thing ever. But if you'd like to support me, check that out. And subscribing, sharing, liking the video is also really great. Personally, I'm currently trying to get to 100 subs, so if you could help out with that, it'd be greatly appreciated. If you enjoyed the video, you found it insightful, if you think it could help someone else, share it. And the more people it reaches, also the more people, the better it is for me as well, because running this game store is and channel is kind of like my dream and goal. That's kind of what I'm working towards doing long term, and setting that up. So that's my objective. So by supporting, by sharing the video, all that stuff, you're helping me reach there. So thank you, and see you in the next video.